Hey guys, so FPL and different fire departments from South Florida got together to go over safety concerns on turning off fires related to EV cars and how to keep abreast of new technologies coming out as well as future models that will come out. They're also talking about working with manufacturers and getting more information from them on how to manage any type of issues and safety concerns. So this is really a good benefit to fire departments to have these meetings and presentations. And actually in Florida next week they're going to have a lithium ion battery symposium to go over different concerns, awareness, what's coming out in the market and what can be done. So this is really good for EV drivers as well as for the public and the fire departments, of course, because their safety is also paramount in taking care of us and fires that might break out with anything related to EVs. Not only EV cars, but also charging systems and also apartment buildings that may have an issue with a battery charging station, as well as also having power batteries in your home as well. That's really another concern. And also light mobility vehicles like batteries as well. So right now they're going over behind me a Mach-E and some things that you can do to it and to make it safer. Also manufacturers put out different safety capabilities in the cars that they're building to make it also safer for you, as much as also putting safety disconnect features. If there's an accident, it'll automatically disconnect. And also some features in some cars like the Fords, they could just disconnect everything by disconnecting the 12-volt battery in your car, and that will allow the disconnect of the lithium ion batteries. Also what's coming out is lithium iron phosphate batteries, which are safer, and it looks like some manufacturers are going towards that route as well. As it seems that Ford is also looking into going into that route. So there is change in technology as part of this whole conglomerate of things that are going on with EVs. And also, just because it's a new technology, it means that people have to learn how to handle these cars and safety concerns related to the cars. So I'm going to give you a little view of what they're going over behind me, and we're just going to check this out. So they have a Mustang here that they're going over.
The way you verify that is if the vehicle still has power, you push the button push start, and it will say ready if the vehicle is powered up. If you do not see the green ready symbol, it means that the battery contact is open and nobody can move it. So anytime you see ready in the vehicle, it means the vehicle is live. If you don't see ready, that means the vehicle is safe. And I'll show you guys in the dash. Yes.
So if you have impact on that side of the vehicle and say that keep that contact, or
so that's a good question. Let's say this vehicle is in front of collision and it damages this connector. So if this connector needs to be in a closed circuit, or needs to close the circuit, right? You have to actually physically close it to allow power flow to the latch. If this is damaged, this will go open. So once this opens, there's no enabling the vehicle. Now the other thing too is we have crash sensors all on the car. So as soon as it detects impact, it's going to open the contact regardless of what's in this. Also, the batteries here in the front left. If I'm in an accident where it damages the 12-volt battery and I lose 12 volts in the car is disabled. So the other way, if I can't find this, just disconnect the 12-volt battery. So once this is disabled, you don't have any power available to actually engage the contact. Because the default of the battery is open. Meaning you have to command it on in order to activate the engine. So if I have 12 volts, there's no way to command it. And if I lose 12 volts while driving, there's nothing to keep it on. So it's just immediately. So if airbags deploy, it's going to be immediately shut down. So now, that being said, the next question, does it take an airbag deployment to disable it? It does not. So you might get into a situation where you have an accident that doesn't say the airbag is safe for rear end collision. if it detects a sudden change in G-force to the vehicle, that it assumes it's an accident, regardless of how bad the damage is on the outside, there's going to be, I've seen it where you look at the car and instead of thinking, oh, that's not too bad, the car's pretty drivable, but the impact is enough to trigger the G-sensor to say, we need to get this car checked out. So that would be an instance where you have to put the car in tow mode and roll away. I know another question, and I'll touch on this, is I heard it mentioned at some point in talking to somebody said if the high voltage battery or something happens on the high voltage side that while the customer is driving that disables the high voltage battery, do the motors lock up and the vehicle stops right where it's at. That is not the case. So these motors actually have a neutral position. So there is a shift motor built into the side of the electric motors that has the actual motor on the stand over by our section, so you guys have a chance to go over and I'll show you how the e-drive works over there. There's a shift motor there that in the event that we need to move the vehicle and I don't have high voltage available, we can still put the transmission, I guess we call it, into neutral to move the vehicle. And if I lose high voltage, the transmission falls to neutral so the vehicle can still go around.
What I want to talk about is how dangerous these batteries can be. Because not only do you have an electrical component of it, some of the EVs now are upwards of 800 volts DC. That's dangerous. Then you have all the charging stations. We have a lot of electricity coming into the house. 220 volts for charging stations. Dangerous. Now there was a time when you couldn't take your cell phone on an airplane because of the danger of the batteries going the wrong way. So what I wanted to do is I just wanted to make everybody aware that these things are out there, and we need to educate ourselves, for lack of a better word. So we run into these houses at 3 o'clock in the morning, and we run up on that car fire at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on I-95. We know what we're dealing with.
This is just 2 wires going to it, and this is essentially a paperclip, a very fancy paperclip. So we're jumping current through the switch. So as soon as you open that circuit by cutting it, or if it melts, technically it would open itself. But if you just cut this wire right here, the vehicle is safe. And if you have access to cut this wire, cut the negative cable too.
So this disables, it doesn't de-energize in any way?
It does de-energize, yes.
Up to what point? Because obviously the battery is still full of energy.
Correct. So everything outside of the battery case is going to be disenergized.
So all the way back to the battery case, back to the module on the case,
yes.
At that point, it's de-energized.
So everything inside the battery, obviously it's still going to have power because it's a battery, it's storing energy. But anything from the connector even, so the connector that you have under the car, directly accessing the battery, that's dead. Because the contactors are inside the battery case and nothing on the outside of the case will have power. So short of opening the case, there's nothing you can't touch on the car that will be energized. That and these batteries use what's called a floating ground setup. So I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with electrical on cars. The 12-volt system obviously is grounded to the frame of the vehicle, so anything that's metal on the vehicle is attached to ground for the car for the 12-volt system. But the high voltage stuff has what's called a floating ground, so everything that comes out of the battery has to go back into the battery directly. Both those circuits, the positive and the negative, are both controlled by contactors individually. So even if one contactor fails, let's say the positive contactor got welded shut, we still have a secondary contactor that once we open it, we're able to see it because there's no return back to the battery. But yeah, if you can disable the 12-volt battery, if you can rip that connector out, both of those are disabled. Any other questions?
What did you call that again? A disabling connector?
So this is just the de-energized plug. So when you pull this, it de-energizes the high voltage side.
Sorry, what was the name of it
The
again?
de-energizing plug. So when you remove this, or you can call it, they also call it the high voltage disconnect. So once you disconnect that, it's the high voltage side is isolated and it's disabled. I know a concern some people have was when I'm charging it, they get hot, we worry about temperature of the batteries, and having a third. We have 2 separate coolant loops, 2 separate coolant reservoirs. If you follow the hoses, they actually run into the AC system too. So let's say it's 100 degrees outside like it is all the time. How do I keep the battery in its happy range of 75 degrees? Well, whenever the vehicle is running or when it's plugged in, even if the car is off and I have it plugged in, it'll run the AC compressor to cool the coolant that's going into the battery to always keep it at that 75-degree range so that the battery's never hot. If it starts to detect the battery gets too hot, it ramps up the AC, starts cooling the battery even more to always keep it in the happy range. So it's very difficult to get these batteries to overheat. Obviously, anything is possible if you try hard enough, but they do have a lot of safety measures built into it. If it, for whatever reason, detects the battery is too hot, it won't allow the driver to drive the vehicle because now, on top of the ambient temperature being too hot, on top of the battery getting too hot, if we drive it and start putting a load on the battery, we're going to push it outside of the safe zone. So it'll tell the customer, plug the vehicle in so they can have time to run the AC. To cool the battery and then allow the vehicle to be used again. If it starts to go on the threshold of getting too hot, we're going to reduce power mode so that way the battery has a little bit more time to cool itself.
Does your at-home charging stations have the same safety features?
Which one?
They like the at-home charging station.
Okay, so the Ford charging stations, yes. All the Ford charging stations that, whether it's a mobile plug that comes with the vehicle, whether it's the large fancy Ford charging station that you can get when you get the Lightning that has the bi-directional charging, they do the same thing. So in order for, once I plug this, and this would go to any J1772 connection, once you plug it in, I guess in this case the wall box, or the FPL Evolution one, whether it's that or the Ford one, it's going to send a pilot signal to the vehicle. It's going to say, hey, are you available for me to charge? The vehicle has to do a check. It's going to cycle the contactors, and you'll hear it when you plug it in. You hear some clicking going on. So what it's doing is it's making sure, okay, my contactors do work, my battery's at the right temperature, my battery voltage is within the range that it's safe to charge it. I'll let you start sending current, but it won't let it get full current immediately. So it'll start slowly pulling in current. So you might, if you watch on the graph, you'll see it go 1 kilowatts, 3 kilowatts, 5, 10.
Sorry to interrupt, I'm talking like an outside source. So we get a house fire, one of these is parked in the garage and it's plugged in.
So if there's any issue with the vehicle that it says something is wrong with me, it won't let you charge it. So
I mean, it's plugged in right now. It's
even if
2
it's
o'clock in
plugged
the morning.
it doesn't matter.
So if that thing catches fire, it'll send a signal to the vehicle itself.
So if that catches fire or has a thermal event, the vehicle itself will automatically open the contactors, and even though it's plugged in, no current will flow. And the good thing about these is I know every manufacturer is different. These don't require a key to replug. I know some manufacturers, when you plug in, if you don't have the key on you, you can't unplug the vehicle. All of our cars are going to plug in, regardless of the car being locked or unlocked. You can just go up to it, rip the plug out. The only area where you might want to be more aware of what's, more situational awareness is if you have a Lightning where it has bidirectional charging. So you can cut the power to the house because there's a fire in the bedroom or something and you're trying to disable it. You need to make sure that if you do see a vehicle, and probably safe practice would be to unplug it regardless of what it is, because every manufacturer is kind of going in that direction. But be aware if there's an electric vehicle plugged in, you might want to unplug it because if it is capable of bidirectional charging, once the house uses shore power, the vehicle can power the house back up. So that is something to keep in mind. If they do have an electric car in the garage, unplug it. If you see it outside, unplug it. Obviously, it's with the way things are advancing, it's hard to tell who's doing what. The Mach-E isn't capable of that at this point. The only car we have that's capable of it is the Lightning. But that's not to say that the next generation Mach-E might not. And I know other manufacturers do it too, so.
Is there any structural points in the vehicle, like if we're using the RAM to extricate somebody, or you have to worry about the battery?
So if you have to use, great question. So let's say you need to use like a dash spreader type wheel or something, and I need somebody who's been in an accident, the dash is under their knees, or something to cut into the vehicle. The high voltage cables on this vehicle are all concentrated on the left side of the car. So the entire harness of this vehicle, all the orange cables, anything that you see is orange, by the way, means high voltage. It runs down from the connection here, all along the floorboard. So if you guys want to come around, I'll kind of show you to this side. I know it's not a lot of space, but. Open the door so you guys can see. So you want to come around. Probably the best bet would be on this side. So this plastic panel here, this is where the high voltage cables run through. So they'll run through here from the battery connection, which is about underneath that center console, across there to the back motor, and they're all on this side. So if you're on the passenger side, there's nothing that you can't cut because you want the high voltage cable. And if you're on the driver's side, you have to leave anything below this line kind of here is where the high voltage cables are. So it runs underneath the vehicle. So but again, it's only on this side. This, as you can see, there's a lot of space between the structure point and the bottom of the battery. So you can cut here, cut there, cut there, cut that right here, anywhere around this whole area, and you're not going to have it's quite a.
But you've
quite a good way before
the curve on this side, right?
Well,
is it protected by?
Yes, if you look under there's probably about an inch thick steel tube.
Steel?
Yes. You'd have to do it. And even if you did, that tube still has, from where the tube is to where the battery tray is, you'd have to not only crush the tube, you'd also have to damage the frame because you hit the frame after that before you even put it. So there is a good wiggle room there. Sure.
No, I was just thinking of exposing the high voltage wire.
I mean, anything can happen, but they did reinforce the wire. So you can, again, you can cut any AC filters, there's no high voltage cables running in and you just have to worry about the floor area on the driver's seat. That's where the high voltage cables are. And if you want to see it, just pull it right off. So if you had an issue and you wanted to make sure you weren't about to that's just put it on there and put it
Right. I'm not really. I know we're more concerned with the line than the battery. Everyone knows where the battery is.
If it's an accident that that high voltage contact.
Right. So even if we put cribbing under it, because we have metal cribbing that's basically self-jacks itself, slide it under there to stabilize it, and you shouldn't have to we should cut that thing. The battery, the power isolates to the battery itself. We don't worry about
Find out.
Yes. And remember that when that's open,
But there are two batteries. There are twos that have the
the battery will see at the battery. The power is only on the inside of the battery, so you actually have to physically drop and open the case to expose anything that you have a hazard.
You don't have any extra ones flying around, so you.
Yeah, but we'll
So I do have the high voltage drive unit on the side by our Sheridan truck. So over there, if anybody wants to go after, I can show you guys the drive or the connections on that.
Yeah.
See when you're working, right? Sort of I have to put this on a lift to really show you the rest of the stuff. But having some of the components exposed over there gives you more of an idea of what you're looking at.
You guys got it out of Broward off Sheridan?
Yeah. 400 shares.
What's the odds of we want to come over there?
I don't want to.
We're right in our backyard, yeah.
So that was the reason for that. It's just more, the car rides better, handles better, and it feels better.
Everybody's not going to.
If it's a vehicle that was designed from the ground up as a high voltage vehicle, it's like that. Now, if sometimes what's happened is you have a manufacturer that had a vehicle that was gas, and they're, okay, well, let's make it a plug-in hybrid or an electric variant, then you'll find where the battery might be strong, but almost every manufacturer is designing it from the ground up. Batteries, in a large case,
I have a question. I have an EV, Kia EV6, and you can lock the charger or have it unlocked with a setting. So do you think it's better just to always have it unlocked in case of an emergency? Yes. Okay.
In case there's an emergency, they need to unplug it.
So that's a good recommendation, I guess.
On our vehicles, we don't.
You don't lock ever, right?
The only thing that we lock would be if you're at a DC fast charging station. Because,
Right.
And it doesn't lock it. What it does is when you hit the unlock button, because you'll see it has a button.
Uh-huh.
That's just to let the car know, hey, we're gonna unplug it and start powering down the system.
Right, okay, right. Thank you.
Does the charger stuff have lithium?
So they were showing that if you disconnect this green button here, that's one of the major takeaways. It'll disengage the 12-volt battery, and that disengages the power in the entire vehicle.
Compromised, and I can't get into the car because everything is locked. So if you come over here to the front, and I need to access this plug, you know, it was in an accident, disabled itself, I need to open the hood, I want to make sure it's good. On the front of every Mach-E, there's a little panel here. If you pop this panel off, inside, you'll find 2 cables. Put 12 volts to that, it opens the hood, and you can access the disconnect. So regardless of whatever the condition of the car is, as soon as I power that up, it will open the hood for you.
So it's like a manual electric release.
Correct.
12 volts.
So yeah, because the problem sometimes we run into is I can't get into the car from the outside because the doors are electronic. And if the battery's dead, how do I open the door? So this is still a way to get into it. Again, you're not going to do this if there's a thermal event. It's just like, okay, well, they were hit on the side, we have to move the car, we want to make sure it's safe to move. We need to get to that. Why are we going to cut the hood for no reason? Just pop the hood here. Or break a window for no reason. It's just a lot easier. Just 12 volts here, we'll pop that right off. Or pop the hood in here.
Hey, you said this car had tow mode.
Yes.
So I'm assuming that just disconnects.
All it does is put it into neutral. Because if I, like for instance, right now, there's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
If I try to put it into neutral, it'll only stay neutral for 30 minutes. And then it'll engage parking. So if you're trying to tow it like that, all of a sudden,
30 miles an hour,
locked.
And when these motors, when the drives are de-energized, they don't free spin.
They will if you put it into neutral or tow mode before they're
Right.
So once you disable it, if it disables the park, it's once you disable the 12 volt side. Because I can pull that disconnect and still be able to put it into neutral. Because the disconnect only disabled the ability to move the motor. With the 12 volt actuator, we still put it into neutral.
Yeah, 'cause that's one of the challenges we have with these electric vehicles when they burn is they don't want to roll. So when the tow truck gets here, like when they're in a garage and we need to move them, they don't like to roll very easy.
Well, it's just like,
That's not a bad thing. Sometimes we get car fires that roll while they're on fire. So that's a bad thing, right? So the fact that it doesn't roll isn't always a bad thing.
So how do you get it into neutral? What were you saying?
So there's you go into the center display, and there's a prompt to put it into tow mode.
Oh, okay.
So you just put it in tow mode, it'll tell you shift it to neutral, turn the car off, and it'll leave it.
Okay.
And if you do that, you said, what did you say about the 30 minutes?
If you just put it into neutral without putting it into tow mode, after 30 minutes it goes back to
Tow mode doesn't have a time limit?
No, tow mode has no time limit, and you can turn the car off, do whatever you need to a bunch of times, and it stays.
After tow mode, disconnect the 12 volt, disconnect everything, it stays in tow mode.
That's not a standard among all cars, though, is it? The tow mode, like Tesla or...
Correct. It might be, but I can only speak, I strictly do support side, so I can only speak for what we do. I'm sure the manufacturers have some people in there.
Right.
Reading the manual, but not everybody reads the manual.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.